Chapter 1 Devil Wind. The hot wind was rising. Kinless called it a devil wind. Lord Regipisk had his doubts about devils, but any devil might have invented that wind. It was hot and dry and gusty, and it was whipping fire into a frenzy. A dozen houses had already burned. They were only bullpizzle houses, not in the territory Regipisk was guarding, so they weren't his business. 5 houses on the other side of the Darkman's Cup Gorge were part of Serpent's Walk, but there was no way to save them. Regipisk's firemen had tried, but no one would blame him for losing those houses. They'd been able to loot the occupied houses before the fire got them. Gather, Regipisk thought, grinning. His Lordkin firemen would call that gathering, and if the Lord's Council asked him, Regipisk would say salvage, but it was looting all the same. Lord Regipisk coughed. The smoke was blowing across the canyon, thicker now, and the wind grew hotter. The fire was coming. A chariot clattered up the road along the edge of the canyon. Regipisk turned with what he hoped was well-disguised contempt. It wasn't that he didn't like his second cousin. Sandry was a likable boy, but he was younger than Regipisk, so recently a young lord that he still answered to the lesser title, and yet he was put in charge here, while Lord Regipisk, fully a lord for 3 years now, was assisting his young cousin.
He got lucky, Regipisk thought. I was busy at the harbor when the congregation of Lords Witness decided to organize these Lordkin as firemen. Cousin Sandry was available and I had other work.
One day it would be different. The council would put Lord Regipisk in charge of all the fire brigades. Until then, Lord Regipisk nominally worked for his younger cousin.
Hail, cousin.
Hail, Lord Regipisk, Sandry said formally. His cousin always did that, used formal titles when their Lordkin firemen were around. Sometimes it drove Regipisk to distraction. What was the need for all that? But you had to admit, Sandry made a handsome figure, standing tall in his chariot, the reins held so loosely that it looked as if Sandry could guide the big horses by talking to them. Whatever else you thought about Lord Sandry, he knew horses, loved them more than he did people. The chariot was one of the larger war chariots, with room for 2 spearmen and the driver. It held only Sandry and a small kinless boy. "Hail, firemen," Sandry said. He waved to the 4 Lordkin who worked with Regipisk. The firemen got to their feet and acknowledged Sandry's greeting with waves and a few muttered words. Sandry was popular with the Lordkin firemen of Serpent's Walk, and this was wild enthusiasm, compared with the way Lordkin usually acted around someone they worked for.
With,
Lord Regipisk reminded himself. Lordkin worked with you, even though both you and they knew that they were working for you. Lord Regipisk could understand that. "I see we lost the houses on the other side of the cup," Sandry said. "Too bad the wind came up like that."
"Yeah, we tried, but there just wasn't any way,"
Regipisk said. Sandry nodded. "No use crying about it, but we have to stop the fire here," he said. "At this gorge, before the wind whips up and drives it across this road. We need a firebreak just here, and I can't spare you any more men." Sandry dismounted and looked across the canyon to the wall of flames. The wind was blowing it toward them, along with smoke and hot ashes. The fire hadn't gone down into the canyon yet, but that was a matter of minutes. Lord Regipisk knew what a firebreak was. Peace Voice Fullerman had explained it when the council put Regipisk into the fire brigade. It was one of the things fire brigade officers had to learn.
"Won't have time with just 4 men,"
Regipisk said. He pointed to the rising flames.
"Once it gets down into the canyon, it will be up here in moments."
Lord Sandry nodded. "I know, Lord Regipisk. We'll use a backfire." Regipisk frowned.
"You sure about that?"
"It's chancy, but it's the only thing we can do." Sandry inspected the gorge, then stooped down and picked up a handful of dust. He released the dust and watched it blow. "With this wind, I'd say about 4 paces, wouldn't you?"
4 paces, Regipisk said. "Sounds about right."
"Good. Get torches and go 4 paces down the canyon. Light fires. When the fire burns here to the road, get through the ashes and go 4 more paces down and do it again. I doubt you'll have time to do it again after that, but if you can, do 4 more paces. I'm pretty sure an 8-pace fire break will stop that fire, and I know a 12-pace break will do it."
"Yeah, 12 paces will do it,"
Regipisk said. He looked down